Everybody, welcome back to G Bear Homesteading the Desert. Here we are on December 27th. It's a Wednesday. And I did run into town this morning because I started pouring this foundation yesterday. And I know I didn't post anything yesterday because I ran out of concrete. I was 2 bags shy. My list said 8 bags when I went the other day. And for some reason, I only picked up 6. Well, had to go back for the other 2. And we got it done here. You see the little footings in the center there. That's because my floor joists are going to be running in this direction, and that's 10 feet across. I'm going to be using 2x6s for floor joists. And rule of thumb for the length of span, the maximum length of span for a piece of lumber is you add the 2 numbers together. So if it's 2x4, that would be 6 foot maximum span. If it's 2x6, that's 8 foot maximum span. So if I'm at 10 feet here, maximum span, what I would need if I was going to go the whole distance straight across would be minimum of 2x8. Now, the rule of thumb doesn't tell you that maximum span that you get from adding those 2 numbers together is right at the maximum. I mean, you actually should subtract the lower number, the smaller number, from your total and use that number as your maximum span. So if you had a 2x8 going across here, it says it's good for a 10-foot span. You take 2 off of it, which is the smaller number, and it puts you back at an 8-foot span. So that doesn't really chide for a good solid floor, and I don't like a spongy floor when I'm walking on it. I don't like when you move across the floor and things on the walls rattle. So when I build nice and solid. So I put these on the inside here, and what I'll be doing is I'll be putting a bridge piece all the way across right up to the building over there, and there's another footing that's going to go right here in the middle. There'll be a bridge piece going all the way across there, so the center of my 2x6s are actually resting on something solid. So now my span is actually only 5 feet. I got 5 feet up to the bridge and then 5 feet on the other side of the bridge. So a 2x6 would give me 8 foot maximum span minus 2 is 6 foot, and I'm going at 5 foot, so I'll have a nice solid floor. I hope those numbers make sense to you. Now you notice these little blocks of wood. I made those up, and I measured and drilled the distance from the end of the board into where the screw has to go to come up through my 2x4s on the base of my floor. And this one last bolt right here that you see laying there, that's actually a different type of bolt. And the reason that that's laying there is because I told you before I'm going to be putting a door in right here. And I'm not sure exactly when I'm using a metal stud on here, exactly where I need to put that bolt in order to anchor this side of the door, which will be the hinge side of the door, because the door is going to swing into the wall that way into the bedroom. And I wanted to make sure that I had a nice solid anchor there. So what I'll do is, when I'm framing this, I'll mark, and I'll just use a concrete drill, and I'll go right through the metal stud base, right through the concrete down into the footing, and then I'll set some epoxy down in the hole and drive that bolt into place. And that'll give me a nice solid edge of the door. Now this one over here, I moved it far enough away from the edge of where the door would go. I left a whole 4 feet in there, and I'm only going to use a 36-inch door. So I moved it far enough away so it won't be in the way of anything when I'm framing on this side. And then, of course, on the corners, I like to anchor the corners on both walls. And then I put my anchors going all the way down the wall there. The ones down there are 4 foot apart. This one I moved 5 foot from there. Not a big deal. The way I do this is my first, after I'm ready to build here, my first thing I do is put my floor joists in, center, and they were all on metal hangers hanging on the edges of the cinder block and the foundation. So they're nice and solid, and I shoot those in with concrete screws right into the block. Then I put my flooring on, which is going to be 1-inch thick OSB tongue and groove. And when I lay that on, I lay it right to the outer edge of the block. So I have to drill for each one of those holes, each one of those bolts, and I set it down over the top. But I don't put the nut on yet. I put the nut on after I put my wall studs up. But having that all the way to the edge like that, I got a bare edge of plywood there, or OSB, and I don't want that exposed. So what I do is, as you can see over there on the building, is I put a metal L flashing drip edge over the top of the flooring and hanging down to the brick. And I run a bead of Flashmate silicone inside of the inside corner of that flashing as I lay it on this corner and press it down onto the wood. So it actually gives me a watertight seal. And then when I put my walls up, my actual siding hangs down a 1/4 inch past the seam between the metal drip flashing and my 2x4. So I've got a solid seal all the way around there, and I don't have to worry about drafts coming underneath there, or if high water ever came here getting in through the bottom. It's just a good design that I came up with. Now, you probably noticed as I raised the camera up over here, I finished laying in the 2.5 more lengths of pipe there. And there's actually going to be 2 more lengths going on the end of that. The white stick all the way at the end is up against a plug that I put on the end of the pipe, and so that nothing will crawl up inside the piping. And I marked it so it's 19 inches from the top of the stick down to the pipe. And I want to know that, so when I'm digging it out next time, I don't run my shovel or my pick or anything right through the pipe and damage the pipe. So that'll give me a locator. Now I got my stub up there. That's where the kitchen line will tie in eventually. For right now, I'm just going to backfill this trench and move my catcher barrel back over there, and I'll be catching the water in that barrel until I get my tank at the other end, because I don't want to just waste water running it into the soil. I want to be able to use that for irrigation. Also, my stub up here for my outdoor shower, I'll probably end up cutting that off way down at the bottom. This is all going to get filled in. I'm going to come up to probably within 1.5 inches of the flashing on the bottom here, and bring this up so it's easy to get my tanks in and out with a hand truck. And this will end up getting cut off and capped just below the surface until I'm ready to use it. And then I'll just put an L on that and run it up a trench here and tie it into my shower pan at the base of the shower, and I'll catch all that water too. Of course, I will have to put a trap on that end, because if I don't, things will go down inside that pipe and end up blocking the pipe down the line. So I'll have a trap on there and a filter on the trap, so that dirt and rocks and twigs and branches and things like that and leaves that blow around won't end up down in my drains. But I will be able to catch that water. All right. As we move on down the line, that slab is grayed up just beautifully. So give that another week or so, and I will be ready to bring my other solar panels out and attach them. That all depends on how soon the Orange County place goes into escrow, and it could be as soon as next week. And if it is, then all hell's going to break loose. I got to move a lot of stuff up here and get things into the container and get things sorted out. And I'm going to have to put in some extra little sheds up against the side of the container. Now this shed here, I actually moved my garden tools all out of the container and moved them down into here. And I also moved the roll of chicken wires and the fence posts, the metal fence posts and all that stuff outside here. So I fixed the lock, the hasp on there, and I got a padlock going on the hasp so I can lock that up too. And look at all the dust on my panels. I mean, there's been no wind here, but this is just from me digging and the dirt getting up in the air. So I'm going to have to wash those again. My batteries are up at 13.9 right now. I'm not worried about it, but I do like to keep those clean. I don't like the sand scratching the glass. So I use dishwashing liquid and a squeegee, as I mentioned before. And dishwashing liquid, I let it wash the sand off first before I do any scrubbing, and take the bird droppings off of there and so forth. And earlier today, I saw a crow was actually climbing the stairs, one stair at a time. Instead of flying and landing at the top, he landed at the bottom and started hopping up those stairs to the top. I swear, I've got that one lone crow that hangs around here. Ever since I first came out here in early 2016, that one single crow shows up daily and looks around to see if I've left any food out for him. Every now and then I throw stale bread out or something like that. But they also go after the squirrels if they can. They're not really good like raptors fast enough to catch the squirrels. But if they get one with its back turned, they'll swoop down and grab it. So I've got all my stuff out here, all my tools. I got to start putting things away and get ready for dinner and a shower. I'm all dirty, and I will be heading out of here sometime late tomorrow because I've got a small job to do on Friday and Saturday, and then probably on Monday again. And in the meantime, I'm going to be getting my stuff together down at the OC house, and I'll be loading this trailer up. You notice I got some 2x4s on here. There was a good price on them at the depot, and I grabbed 7 of them. That gives me a total of 8 with the 2 I've got inside the container. But I didn't want to put these in there yet until I do a little bit more organizing in here. I've made a little bit of a hole going down the center. All of this bottled water, I bring up any bottled containers that I can every time I come. I'm always bringing extra water up. I think I'm going to end up using those to make beer and wine when my grapevine produces and the squirrels don't eat it all. And I'll put the stuff right back into the same bottles, and that's all good, clean, potable water that's in each one of those. So I've got the water I need in the right quantity to make beer, and I also have extra water that I need if I'm going to wash the containers and things like that. Because the wine, of course, the water comes, or the juice comes out of the grapes. You don't add water to it unless you want grape juice. So I've got that big carpet in there too. That's brand new carpet, and I will probably end up putting that in my bedroom so that I have a nice soft floor to walk on. I don't do that in the cabin now because I walk in through that front door and I'm always bringing a little bit of this fine sandy dust in with me. And I have to sweep the floor like every day, no less than every other day, because you take your shoes off, you start walking, and all you feel is sandy grit on the floor, and your feet get all dirty. And after I'm all cleaned up, I don't want to get dirty. So that's about it, people. You notice I brought my screen rake there, my old mattress rake, and I moved my drag sled, my grader, over there because I need to start readjusting things here, and I'm thinking about adding. That's why I'm bringing 2x4s in. I'm going to maybe even just use those two doors and just come off 8 feet off the container with some 2x4s, and that'll be 2 sheets of siding, and I can make a little garden shack or something like that on the side here. And if I work it all out right, I may even be able to pull my ATV inside of there instead of putting it in the container all the time and lock it down. Now, if I'm going to be here anyway on a regular basis, I don't have to keep locking up my ATV in the container all the time. I just have to lock it down because I will hear if anybody is trying to mess with it outside. Well, I'm not going to bore you with anything else. As you notice that the turbine isn't moving. There hasn't been really any wind here since the first day I got out here. It's been real calm. I'm also got a few ideas of changes in plans. A lot of this wood is going to be ended up being part of the chicken coop. I'm just stockpiling it as I go, and I don't throw anything out. If it's bigger than a baseball, it's probably can be used, even if it's just a brace for a shelf. So that's the end of that. G Bear in the desert, signing off.